Hello, everybody. Welcome to CoinFund Q&A. Today, I'm very excited to be interviewing SpankChain, Amin, and William from the project. Welcome. Thank you for joining. How are you today?
Fantastic.
So SpankChain in your white paper is described as infrastructure for the adult entertainment industry. I'd love to dig into that a couple of different ways. But before we do that, you guys want to just give it a little bit of intro as to how you got into blockchain and who you are and what you've been working on?
Sure, yeah. So I got started in blockchain buying mushrooms in college. And on the Silk Road, after I learned how to code, I built a Bitcoin arbitrage bot. I made like $5 off of arbitrage and like $1,000 off of the price increase in Bitcoin, and then lost everything in Mt. Gox. So I took off from Bitcoin. I built a news aggregator. It failed, and then I joined Consensus. Worked there for a year. I worked on state channels, the peer-to-peer energy markets, and the ad chain. And then I left Consensus to create SpankChain and found Wills.
Excellent. What about you, Will?
The finding of each other is also an interesting story I'll get into. But so I haven't been in the whole blockchain space as long as Amin. Prior to blockchain, I worked at a healthcare like AI machine learning company, and just like talking with developers, like, yo, you have to get into this thing. It's called Ethereum, and I was like, oh my god! Like, I started doing some research, and then I bought some, wasn't actually like just investing, and this was about the new year, and then crazy things happened. The price went up, and I started like hanging out on Reddit nonstop and like reading all the comments, and and then I met Amin because I saw that he posted this like 170 slide Genesis SpankChain deck, and I was just like, damn, this is two of my favorite things right now, right? Porn and blockchain combined. I was like, I have to somehow be part of this project, and so I sent him a message on Reddit, and he just happened to work down the street here in LA, down on Main Street, and we got together, and now we're here on this call.
Fantastic. So, guys, the $1 million question: what is SpankChain?
Yeah, all right, I'll take this one. SpankChain is an economic platform powering the adult entertainment industry. So, unpacking that just a little bit, it makes it easy for people to create their own personal content distribution sites, whether that's for clips or for live cams. We support both. To facilitate adoption of this platform, we will build our own live cam site and content distribution platform, or marketplace, however you want to call it. The live cam will be ours. It will be called SpankChain. The content marketplace will do in collaboration with District 0x, and that'll be called the Red Light District. And once we build those, we will take what we learn from those, we'll modularize the technological components, wrap them in SDKs, or standard development kits, and we will open them up to the world so that the world can benefit from our technological infrastructure and build their own adult applications.
So is this is this aiming toward a specific kind of mode of interaction, like cams, connecting cams and users, or do you envision that actually going across different sort of verticals of that industry?
Yeah, I think it has more to do with like where commerce takes place and how commerce takes place in the adult industry than like any specific technological or informational medium, like cams, like live cams, or like data content or something, right? It's more to do with how do people consume porn, and like how do people buy it, and then everywhere that happens, we want to make that easier, frictionless, and be able to use cryptocurrency.
So certainly in the point of view that blockchain presents some really nice value propositions for marketplaces. Certainly this marketplace is just another marketplace, but how do you guys think about the market opportunity here? Like, how many people in the world, let's say, are doing this stuff? What do they get paid? And what's the opportunity to make money?
Yeah, so the industry is quite massive, right? It's like one of those industries that no one really talks about, but it's over $100 billion a year. So people are like consuming globally and consuming a lot of it. So do we want to like capture that, I guess, that market as well? And like the reason it's so high is because there's so many fees. Fees are 50%. And so when we come in like with our tech, we'll decrease the fees, decrease that, and hopefully, take over.
Nice.
Be the goal.
So specifically in the CAM use case, right? There's probably a bunch of sites that are doing this already, and what you're saying is that they typically take a large cut, around 50%.
A discriminatory fee, yeah.
How does blockchain improve that, and like to what extent?
Yeah, so like payment processors take normally like 3% fees, right, and like 30 cents on the internet. In the adult world, there are chargebacks, and a lot of the adult businesses are considered high risk. And so the payment processors that serve the adult industry typically take like 10% in fees. Like if you look at the CC Bill website, CC Bill is a popular payment processor for the adult industry. They take like 10% fees. So one of the ways that using a blockchain can help reduce the fees is simply by eliminating the expensive payment processors, right? And so using our technology, using payment channels, we can have microtransactions for way lower fees, like 1 or 2 orders of magnitude lower. And we also get this added benefit of eliminating chargebacks so that there's never any risk of fraud in the system. Once you have a payment, you know it's final. The other way that we are able to reduce fees is by recognizing that most of the more popular online like CAM models, they have their own loyal followings, and they've already started to disintermediate the CAM sites they work for by tweeting and snapping and engaging with their followers on social media to advertise their own CAM sessions. And so most of the CAM sites, the bulk of their spending is on marketing. And so if you can partner with the sort of high-end CAM models first, then you don't have to spend much money on marketing, and so you can offer the technology and the infrastructure at a much lower cost.
Got it. And would you say, so in bringing up this new kind of infrastructure, you certainly have this, efficiency play, you have the ability to lower fees, but one important ingredient is how do you get the, let's say, supply side of that market to come onto your platform, and, what is going to be driving them to do that, first of all? And second of all, how do you think about, I guess, kind of a marketing push for SpankChain, or how do you get installed in that market in general?
Well, I think one of the main things that we can offer them is significantly lower fees and control of their finances and money through crypto. And I think that's one thing that draws so far they've been very attracted to, right? Who wouldn't? It's like there's 2 solutions that do the same thing, that have the same end experience, but one of them you're getting only 50 cents on every dollar you're making, and then the other one you're getting 100% of that dollar. Which one are you going to choose? And it's pretty obvious what you would do.
But how do you communicate that to the market? How do you, presumably there's a higher barrier to entry for people, on the platform to learn how to use cryptocurrency, to hold Ether, to buy Ethereum, and this is not just a problem for you guys. It's a problem for every kind of consumer proximate application.
One thing we noticed, and this is just with people with crypto, and that's that once you have crypto, you start learning a lot more about crypto. It's this like magical effect, right? Nobody tells you to learn more about crypto. It's just as soon as I have some, now I want to go read about it. And so we're gonna give out lots of free money as a motivation for people to join us in the community, and also to take it on themselves to educate themselves about how cryptocurrencies work. I think giving out free money will actually save us so much time that it will be incredibly valuable and a net return on the investment.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that you see these days quite commonly in the market. When folks go out with their token supply, they usually reserve, a section of the supply for promotional currency. They reserve it for rewards. They reserve it for incentivizing partners with the platform. And do you anticipate? Let's talk a little bit about how the system works.
Another thing quick to mention too there is we do have some pretty influential partners, right? That have that can help us market, like the Janice Griffiths, and we're also talking to this one company, Camversity, that has already signed up tens of thousands of girls. They haven't launched. We're still like someone that we're talking with to potentially maybe even get our SDK in their website down the road when they do launch. So that's like other things that, as far as like if there's a concern about getting girls, obviously
got it. And
things we can get at.
So pointed question. Being in the vertical that you are in, have you guys had any issues? Like, are there regulatory issues around this stuff, jurisdictional issues? What about getting a lawyer to represent you?
Yeah. We talked about this, Jake. So getting a lawyer was a pain because lots of the lawyers in the space didn't want to work with us. And, our lawyers that we have right now are very good, but it was hard to find them. They're like needles in this haystack of lawyers. Because we'd start out this conversation with lawyers and we'd be like, we do the intros, blah, 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 and then we'd say SpankChain, and then they'd put two and two together and figure out this is porn, and then be like, oh, well, for perception reasons, we can't work with you guys. And it's like, dude, I know you watch porn. Like, don't give a shit. Like, you consume what they supply, but somehow, you have to distance yourself. Like, all right, fine, I get it. But
so it's hard enough to find a lawyer that understands the sort of intricacies of token sales and securities regulation, all that stuff. Has it been like super hard to get that expertise, but also have them join the project?
I think we were pretty lucky there.
Yeah,
to say the least.
We have two in LA, and they're very good, and a third that we know. We have 3 lawyers, and they're all
cool. Let's talk a little bit about how the system works. This is an Ethereum project, correct?
Yeah.
And how do you think about, this is my favorite topic, but how do you think about the token model for the infrastructure for the adult industry?
So tokens are for the first time in history, we have programmable money, so we can run all sorts of cool experiments on it. Most of them will fail. Most of your investments will fail. Most of everyone's investments will fail because they're thinking about their like short-term token rate and not the like long-term economic equilibria. So we stayed away from intentionally the like medium of exchange token because we recognize that those are all doomed. And so we decided to adapt Gnosis's token model for our purposes. Gnosis's token model is very one of the more sophisticated ones. One of the common criticisms is like, man, this token model is like too complicated. Can you like dumb it down for me? And it's like, do you know how money works? It's like, if you know how money works like right now, it's like no less complicated than like how fiat is issued by central banks and then disseminated through fractional reserve. But let me tell you the token model. So we have a 2-tier token system similar to Gnosis. Gnosis has GNO as their generator token and Wiz as their usage token. We have Bank as our generator token and Booty as our usage token. And so the way it works is you take your Spank and you deposit it in the Spank Bank, which is a smart contract on the Ethereum blockchain. And periodically, I think we're targeting once a month, new Booty is going to be generated from the Spank Bank and distributed to all the depositors of Spank. And so to make a long story short, Spank acts as a dynamic license to use SpankChain services because each of those booties that are generated can be redeemed for SpankChain services for $1 worth of SpankChain services. So long story short, if you have 1% of the total spank in the spank bank, you will generate enough booty to use to pay for 1% of the total platform use.
Got it. And so it sounds like similarly to Gnosis, the booty portion, that's kind of a stable coin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's being used as a transactional currency, or is it being used to pay like fees?
Good question. So there's like two different layers in our economy. One is like the layer between viewers and performers and platform businesses, and the other is the layer between those performers and platform businesses and our infrastructure. So we do not intermediate the transactions between users and performers and platform businesses. They can pay in whatever token they want, whatever these accept, whatever the performers accept. It can be Ether, it can be ERC20 token. Maybe one day there'll be dollar coins or Bitcoin tokens or whatever. And then the performers and the platform businesses pay us their fees in booty. And so it's just the cost of infrastructure. So, for example, if they are on our campsite, they will be paying us 5% of their fees, of their earnings in booty token.
Got it. And as a customer, if I'm consuming the content, I buy that directly on like where's the venue? Or I guess what I'm asking is, so the site that actually has the cams, is that a centralized site that you guys will build on top of the decentralized framework? And do you anticipate like other people building centralized sites in kind?
Yeah, that's where it gets a little weird, right? So decentralization is the goal, not the path.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I'm willing to settle for trustlessness, which is like, we can never take your money, we can never get hacked. So we have a centralized payment channel solution. You open a payment channel with our site, right? That would be version 1 of our platform. Version 2 would involve using like a full hub, like a payment channel hub, which would allow us to make payouts instantly to all performers on the platform. Still centralized, still trustless. Really cool.
Got it.
But yes, that's how it would work.
Is it for the state channel solution? Are you looking toward a specific network like Raiden, or are you like kind of rolling your own state channel?
Yeah, we built our own. We built our own like simple one, payment channel. If Raiden is ready, then we'll use Raiden. If not, we'll build our own simple version that we need. Our team is basically all 80 state channel developers now. So we are comfortable both using other technology and building our own.
Nice. And in terms of kind of team, is it just the two of you guys? Are you working with other developers? And what is the technological state of the project today?
Okay, yeah. So the team is like 10 of us. It's like 7 developers. Will's. I'm a developer. Will's our designer and so he's taking over as CEO. And then we have one porn star and one other like PR communication.
Nice. On staff, you have those guys?
Yeah.
Sweet. And how much are you looking to? I know you're going out into a public offering in a couple of days. How much are you guys looking to raise for the project?
Yeah. You want to take it?
No, go for it. My internet's kind of like a little funky right now. Just,
yeah. So yeah, we're gonna raise up to $69 million. I figured that was a good number.
Okay, and is that all in a public sale, or are you doing a kind of private sale for early investors as well?
Yeah, so that's well, we raised 400 grand in like seed money just to get us here, and so we tried to raise as little as possible at that to make it the most fair for the public. We have a pre-sale going. It ends in 2 days. So it's just a whitelist. We don't actually collect funds in a pre-sale. You can get up to 30% bonus tokens on the final price as determined by the auction. And that's sort of like if you're a strategic partner, if you're a friend, then you'll get 30%. If you're not, you'll get 20%. And then the auction will be held, and the price will be determined by the auction.
Is the product in kind of a alpha mode or beta mode right now, or like when can we expect to see a workable beta?
Yeah, so you should check out our live our payment channel demo. We have that already, so we showed that the technology works.
Yeah, I think one of the more important more important things to us was actually building the product or the technology before coming out and writing a white paper. Just because I think that's kind of normal. You build a product and you get people to see that you can actually accomplish things like that and not just write a fancy white paper. So yes, we actually have a live demo. Me was saying on our website. It's also on YouTube. So yeah, you can see that. Me walking through how payment channels work, and Janet with Janice Griffith, and yeah.
Are you guys worried? Are you guys worried about the market at all? I mean, what we've seen is a bit of turmoil. We have the Bitcoin fork coming up. We have DevCon, where we don't know what's going to happen to Ethereum, and then also we see like a fairly significant saturation in the ICO market, where investors are kind of inundated with opportunities all day long.
Right.
Does that make you nervous, or are you guys pretty confident that this is going to be a blowout?
I don't know if blowout's the right word to say, but I think we're pretty confident that one of the first things you'll be able to do with your Ether is watch porn and pay for it. You can't do that on Bitcoin. You're not going to be able to do that on Bitcoin anytime soon. So we're not worried there, right? And we actually have a business model that generates revenue for the company to allow us to sustain ourselves and just create better products and create a better Ethereum network.
Sorry, go ahead. I mean,
it's like the risk classification of raising Ether during tumultuous periods of time. It's like, all right, we could raise a bunch of money and then Ether goes to zero, and then we're sold half, so we're still fine. In terms of hedging, but like nobody wants to do that. So you basically want to raise enough Ether that like if Ether does crash, you're like still probably okay, right? Or like when the ICO bubble pops later on, you like preserve the option by like selling not maybe all of your tokens in one shot as most projects are doing, but like enough to get you to a more productive a working product with users and stuff, and then you can sell additional tokens at a potentially higher price.
Mm-hmm. So serious adult question here, and we've seen it both ways, right? So when teams collect ICO proceeds, they then have this problem. They're like, do I hold on to my Ether and go long and hope everything works out, or do I liquidate my Ether? Or do we go somewhere in between? And we've seen situations where teams liquidated Ether very early. They could have seen a lot of appreciation and runway for their team. And then on the other hand, we've seen teams raise relatively little and then see a bunch of appreciation as Ether has gone up significantly this year. So how do you guys think about protecting the team's runway, and what's your strategy there?
Well, we have a number of friends that run crypto hedge funds, who are probably the most people in crypto. So I would think that they're the least likely to lose all of their money in the coming months. So using them could be one avenue that we would take. Converting some into like hard cash assets is another, but that involves going through banks, and so. Might not like doing that as much. But personally, I think Ether is going to go up. I think we might moon a little bit in like the next couple months. So we'll probably hold both of it.
So it sounds like you guys are bullish there, and would be willing to take on at least some risk of holding that asset.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you can use your Ether for something besides buying tokens, then suddenly the whole platform is more useful.
How many apps do you guys think are on Ethereum, like in production today, where you can actually go and transact and get real services?
Flance.
Yep.
Ether Delta.
Yep. well, District just came out with Name Bazaar, right?
Meme Factory. Meme Factory might be next.
Yeah, Meme Factory. Well, as you guys might know, I'm fairly close to that project, and CoinFund, funded them a little bit, kind of in the early days. Tell us a little bit more about how you're going to integrate with the District 0x network.
Yeah, kind of. Just one last point, like on that too, is that a lot of these projects, like in theory, are amazing, right? But the timing's off because they don't have the user adoption, and what they're trying to do is, get people to use their apps, and they need, the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, to have like some sort of product there, right? And I think that's SpankChain, because everyone wants to pay for porn, and if you can pay less for the same product, like, the user adoption skyrockets, and that's like a big thing too that we're thinking about. So I was just throwing that in on your last point. Now you guys can go to District 0x.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for that.
So the District 0x question, how are we working together? It's actually really interesting because so DNT, they have a token. So what District 0x does, for people who don't know, platform for creating community-owned marketplaces. So you want to run your marketplace, you vote, take your DNT, which is the district next token, you stake it on the specific marketplace that you care about, and then you earn governance rights in that marketplace, right? Now you can vote on things. Things you might vote on are fee percentages, rankings, content quality controls, what can be in the certificate, what is excluded, stuff like that, right? So what we figured out with Jorgo is a way for a tokenized collaboration, which is totally, this isn't a normal thing, but maybe we're copying something that joint stock corporations can do. I don't know. Basically, we both take our tokens and we can stake them equally in the staking contract for the red light district and have equal governance shares. So there's 1 billion Spank and 1 billion DNT. There's 50-50 down the middle, and then we share governance of this district. We both thought that was a reasonable way of doing it, and so that's our current line of attack.
That's really interesting, and I'd love to dig into that a little bit more, because you always see these sort of issues with projects that come up with their own token supplies, and then they kind of don't have a lot of incentive to interoperate because everybody wants to grow the value of their own token. But it sounds like you guys have found kind of an interesting collaboration between tokens there, and I'm not even sure that has happened before. So
I think we're the first.
Yeah, congrats. All right, awesome, guys. Thank you very much for giving us the background there. I'm excited to see how this pans out. It sounds like you're...
Ask us.
What?
There's nothing else you want to ask us? Those are all the easy questions, right?
Oh. Well, why don't you tell us what's on your mind as potential challenges here?
Potential challenges? All right, maybe stick to the easy question. Challenges. Yeah, I mean, we'll realistically, it's dealing with post-IPO incentive alignment, keeping the team together, keeping us motivated, keeping us working, bringing on, trying not to piss off, too many people at the same time. What do you think, Wills?
I was just gonna say that's why we ICO, so we can buy ourselves time to figure out how to work around these challenges and create solutions for the challenges, right? And just make a better Ethereum world.
Yeah. So far, there aren't bankers knocking on our door, so that's a good thing. Our plan is to have performers and porn stars who've been the discrimination against the adult industry is embedded in the financial infrastructure of our economic system, right? Mm-hmm. It goes pretty deep. Now we have a legitimate exit that allows them to move their banking operation onto this like Ethereum inclusive, permissionless platform. And so we want them to come over, and then like they talk shit about banks, which is well deserved. And this will accelerate the entire adoption of cryptocurrency. So the challenge is to do that, without probably getting killed. That'd be good.
Do you see this? Do you see this project mean as a political project?
Yeah. So blockchains aren't better than like banks in terms of, or like in central banks and fiat issuing in terms of like efficiency. They're better in terms of ethics.
And can you talk more about that?
Yeah, sure. So, the reason that you want a blockchain is because some central banker like can't tamper with it, right? And so like most of the projects today, they don't need blockchain because it probably isn't going to get them efficiency gains. And so like Vitalik worked hard on starting for another 2 years, right? In the meantime, the people who actually need blockchain, the people who need, who've been marginalized by the existing financial system and need a new financial system to use that won't ostracize them. And so, yeah, I think it's a political project. I think calling ourselves SpankChain shows everybody in the industry that we will never turn our back on them. Like so many other projects have, Patreon, like today, or maybe not today, it was this past week, they were like, actually, we can't do adult anymore. That'll never happen to us because why? We're not on banks. We're on Ethereum.
Do you find that the words political, it might be a little bit more social what we're doing, right? We're helping like a sector of society that's literally been rejected. So, if you look at the fee structure, it's discriminatory and it's essentially redlining.
There's definitely a couple of industries, right, where like even in the United States that are underbanked, right? So one thing you can point to very clearly is the budding marijuana industry, where it's kind of legal to have a bank account on a state level, but illegal to have it on a federal level, and the result is that you can't have one. You guys are suggesting that there's a certain amount of kind of rights that the pornography industry loses because they're sort of beholden to the financial industry. Is that how you're seeing it?
Yeah, that's not just how we're seeing it. That's like how it is. It's
okay.
Like in the beginning paragraphs of our whole paper, which everyone should read. We have what, JP Morgan, Chase closing down bank accounts of like adult, entertainment performers without warning. Like literally seizes account and takes it, and then like he's done that just like they deny offering their services to a lot of adult entertainment businesses, which is like leaves the door open for the more shady companies to come in and charge way more in fees and like, so yeah, totally.
And they really have no reason to change or update their ways, right? Because it's been going on for years. I mean, they have no competition because they have like Visa, PayPal, MasterCard are not in the industry. So it allows these like multiple companies to basically just run, operate it, own it, and they say whatever like how it goes down, and the performers really have no say. And it's quite a sad situation. And I think that's one of the main reasons that attracted me to the project was to bring these people into the into normal financial terms.
So do you see that that industry as being like underbanked or more like censored by various institutions? And like, for example, when you mentioned Patreon, right? Is Patreon taking pornography off the platform because of the underlying banking system, or is it more like a product or business level decision for them?
It's hard to say because even if it is so there's this thing, there's like the bottleneck or whatever. Basically, this like Christian billionaire lady got this like this is one example of it. Got this like sheriff, in to try and bully like Visa and MasterCard and like payment processors, not accept business develop entertainment businesses, right? And so this is like this type of evangelical top-down control structures that influence these decisions. And so is it Patreon? Is it Visa and MasterCard, you know, telling Patreon like, look, we're not going to process your payments if you don't do this? It's hard to say, right? So I think that Patreon wants to be open because in previous years they have been more open, and only now that they are closing back down again. So I think that it's likely to be motivated by like payment processors for banks, but I can't say that with too much confidence.
Are you guys as a team building this? Or, you know, you seem to have implied during this interview that you're not planning on getting a bank account for yourself. Is that correct?
I mean, we have a personal bank, like, but yeah, we'll have a bank account as a company. It'll just probably not hold very much money.
Okay, I understand. So you know, so you still need you know, you still need a bank to kind of transact and
you still need to keep the lights on in the office,
right? Gotta pay
those
the
companies take fiat.
Gotta pay the landlord, but the way that you're thinking about it is like, you know, the principle of the thing is to get away from the banking system, get away from, you know, censorship potentially, or issues like that.
Yeah. I mean, we're like in the very early phases of like the actual cryptocurrency power streams. So, you know, I don't want to have a lot of money in banks when that actually starts out. I think it'll probably be like relatively proportional to like how I use fiat today, which is like most of my money is like in crypto, and then like occasionally I need to pay for food. And then like sometimes I run out of fiat, and I'm like, God damn it, let me go back to, you know, do that and sell some shit.
Is it you know, is it nerve-wracking to know that most of your wealth is in this like extremely volatile and unpredictable asset class?
It'll never get closed.
That's true. But it might be worth zero.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it could be.
So this is really interesting, and like I'd love to hear more on your view of how this whole, you know, cryptocurrency thing in general is just going to play out. Do you feel like there's going to be a moment where just everybody is going to start using this stuff and it's going to like overtake the traditional system?
Yeah. I just don't think they'll go quietly.
And why do you think that? Like, what's driving your view?
Yeah, so it's like, you know, for example, like Bitcoin, Zcash especially, these like undermine the ability of sovereign states to collect taxes from their citizens, right? So they're going to want to control like every endpoint that connects with these networks. And in order to collect taxes, we're going to see like more, I think in the US, we'll see more like active seizures of crypto assets. If they're like declared, you know, outlawed. I think we'll see that the US is the existing hegemon, and so the dollar is the global reserve currency. And so as soon as all of the other nations figure out that they can pool their resources to dilute the power of the US dollar as a global reserve currency, they might. We're already seeing this with like Russia. They get China on the good side. You know, we'll see that too. You can imagine a future where Russia and China are settling their national debts at the end of the day to each other in Bitcoin or Ether or whatever, what have you. And so the US as the incumbent and as the most powerful will be last to move, which will make every other country like band together against the US. That's sort of how I see this playing out. You'll have this like first phase where we unbank the bank, as is like Omise Go's strategy, as their slogan, right? So what they're doing is they're trying to cut out all the short-term deposits of people in banks in Thailand and move them onto the Omise Go blockchain and then make that transactional, because that's why they bring on, you know, McDonald's or whatever. Mm-hmm. So collectively, you'll see around the world, countries, like governments, cut out their banks because blockchains are more effective at doing the bank's job and diminish the role of banks. And they'll do this to preserve the stability of the fiat that they issue. This is like phase one of cypherpunk victory, where you destroy the banks. And then phase 2 of cypherpunk victory is where the cryptocurrency itself, the network, actually becomes more valuable than any fiat issued by any. So that's what I think will happen, but that might be totally crazy. So who knows?
Well, I would say, you know, like one way to argue against that view, right, is, for example, to say, you know, we probably severely underestimate the power of governments around the world to regulate decentralized networks, right? Yeah. I mean, you can look at, I think just the other day, there was a article out of Russia where, you know, miners in Russia are now being mandated to basically start registering. I think it's going to start in 2018. You know, and once you have like that level of compliance, I mean, the decentralization, at least in that jurisdiction, is a little bit undermined. So how do you see that playing out? Like, you know, you very well might see like very onerous regulation around this stuff.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying, right? We'll see like more active seizures. Like imagine a United States where anybody mining could be shut down and have all of their mining equipment seized at any time. Anybody who's taking crypto across state lines could be searched and have it seized. Have your hardware wallet seized. So like if governments start doing stuff like this, I would think that innovation would route around it. There's some regulatory arbitrage because it's obviously very beneficial for certain countries to allow this to happen within their jurisdictions, and they don't have the sort of entrenched our empire sustains itself based on the federal the reserve dollar whatever petrodollar dominance. So like they don't have to fight against it as hard. They can just like, hey, come to Switzerland, or hey, come to Singapore. You can have it here. And so yeah, innovation will route around it if the governments get too draconian with their enforcement. I think it's an inevitable change. I just don't know how severe the reaction will be and what path we'll take. Because if you go like, look at Bitcoin, it's got like the super alt-right, like hate the government, love anarchy, they're super ideologically driven, down to die for this shit. If it was like super antagonistic, then I would expect like those guys to be like, fighting it to the end. And Ethereum, all Ethereum has to do is just like make the existing power structures a better deal. And then they'll adopt Ethereum. So it depends on the degree to which these cryptocurrency networks serve the oligarchs. That determines the evolutionary path of crypto.
Nice. Well, that's a very interesting view. I think, as always in blockchain, what will actually happen is something that we're not even thinking about right now. But it's interesting to see the growth that we already did have in the space. Like, just this year we've gone, something like 17x on the space, and it looks like that growth is continuing. So I hope everybody's looking forward to seeing how this all plays out. I wish you guys the best of luck with your token offering for SpankChain. I hope your Spank Bank is filled with much spank and generates much booty. And look forward to following the project. Thank you guys for joining.
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you.
All right. Have a nice day.
You too. Thanks.
Later.